Hello, everybody. Happy Hump Day. Welcome to our October AuthorConnect Chat. I'm Michelle, the Chief of Staff at BookPal, which is a company with a mission to share transformative power of book with organizations and their people. And I am super jazzed to be chatting today with the talented Alexandra Watkins.
Hi, Michelle. Hi, everyone.
Alexandra is the author of Hello, My Name is Awesome, which I can say is one of the funniest books I've read in business, and I read a lot of business books. And I also finished it in pretty much a half a day, so there's no excuse not to read it. Alexandra is a brand name expert who's turned her passion for naming things into her premier naming company, Eat My Words. She's also the winner of Make Mine a $1 Million Business Program sponsored by American Express and a popular guest lecturer at several MBA programs at universities such as Stanford, Berkeley, and USF. Most recently, she was invited to speak at the prestigious MIT Media Lab, which is a client of Eat My Words. So today, Alexandra is generously going to share some insights from her book, Hello, My Name is Awesome, and then we'll jump into a Q&A. So if you have questions for Alexandra, please submit them at any time during the webinar. And at the very end, we're giving away 4 signed copies of the book, so make sure to stick around. If you have to jump off early, don't worry, we're going to have the recording out next week. Okay, Alexandra, teach us how to be awesome.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone, for attending today. I'm excited to tell you about my new book and help you learn about how to create brand names with buzz. Before we get started, there is a pop quiz. Okay, when somebody sees your brand name, how should they react? A, exclaim, I freaking love it. B, struggle to understand it, like they're looking at hieroglyphics. C, go back to looking at their phone. Or D, throw up a little bit in their mouth. What do you think? Right, the answer is A for awesome. And Hello, My Name is Awesome is going to teach you how to create awesome, love at first sight names so people choose your brand over your competitors, whether it's you're naming a company, a product, a service. You will have a name by the end of this book that people love and want to talk about, and you're going to be their favorite name forever, I hope. Alrighty, so the book is based on my philosophy that a name should make you smile instead of scratch your head. Now, that philosophy, which I've had for the 15 years that I've had my firm, inspired a 12-point name evaluation filter called the Smile and Scratch Test. SMILE is an acronym for the 5 qualities that make a name great. Scratch is an acronym for the 7 deal breakers and when to scratch it off the list. The first 2 chapters of the book are Smile, then Scratch, and we'll dive into those right now. I'm going to take you through the book chapter by chapter and just give you a little taste of each one. So going into SMILE, the acronym for SMILE, these are, again, the 5 qualities that make a name great. It's suggestive, memorable. It used to be meaningful. I changed this edition of the book. I changed it to memorable. Your name still needs to be meaningful, but memorable is something that people always talk about. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Your name should have imagery, legs, and make an emotional connection. So let's touch on a couple of those. The M in SMILE stands for memorable. What makes a name memorable? Well, the stickiest names are associated with words and concepts that are already familiar to us. So think about that. How do we remember things? Things that stick in our memory, we are able to remember more easily if we're already kind of familiar with it. And here's an example. We've all been to networking events. So let's say you're at a networking event and you meet Lucinda from Leapfrog, and Lucinda's not wearing a name tag. So you meet her, and 3 seconds after she introduces herself, you forget her name. We all do that. I'm totally guilty of it, and I'm good with names. But Leapfrog's probably going to stick in our head. Why is that? It's because we're familiar with the childhood game of leapfrog. Plus, leapfrog, when we hear it, and she says she's from Leapfrog makes educational toys for children, we can picture a child leaping ahead all the way from kindergarten to Harvard. So that's why leapfrog's going to stick in our head, that there's a lot of associations going on. Where Lucinda, it's probably we don't have anything to associate with it. Now let's take a look at brand names. These are 10 brand names. What associations do you have with any of these brand names? Michelle, any associations with these?
Let's see. Maybe Pyroto is a fireworks company?
Pyroto, yeah, not pyrotechnics, nothing with pirates. All of these companies actually make the same type of thing. Any guess?
Mm, oh gosh.
Okay,
I'm stumped.
hey, let's do this. If anybody right now, and you're not looking on the internet, can guess what these mean and just quickly send a response in, and it's right before I say it, let's give them a book. So the correct answer is all of these companies make scheduling software, some form of scheduling, calendaring software.
Gotcha.
How would
We had a couple submissions that were a couple guesses for medicine or medical industry.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay, right. So how would right, and of course no one would know this. So how memorable are these names? You don't have anything in your brain to latch onto, right? So how many of these names will you remember 1 week from now? How many of these names are you going to remember by the end of this presentation? Probably none of them. So when you're starting out with a blank slate, do not give your name any disadvantages. You want your name to be a name that suggests something about your brand. That's what we mean by suggestive. That it's easy for people to spell, easy for them to pronounce. It's a name that has something that helps them remember it, as none of those names did. We'll get into a little bit of that too. So next, let's talk about the L in smile. That stands for legs. A name with legs simply means that it has you can extend the brand. So for instance, at Eat My Words, we have a package called the whole enchilada. We have one called Signature Dish. Our blog is called The Kitchen Sink. So you get what I mean. It lends itself to a theme. I give an example of this in the new book that's really fun. You've probably all heard of Jimmy Buffett, the famous singer-songwriter. Jimmy Buffett, famous for Margaritaville, has lent his name to a new retirement community. They have 3 now. They're, I'm sure, going to be all over the country. They're called Latitude Margaritaville. And Latitude Margaritaville is all about living a laid-back lifestyle in your retirement. Now, here's how they have extended the brand. They have street names like Flip Flop Court, Castaway Way. They have Land Shark Boulevard, Lost Salt Shaker Way. Their business center is called the Coconut Telegraph, and their dog park and pet spa, Barcaritaville. So that's a name with legs. So you can imagine how much fun they're having with it, where a name like, Sleepy Acres for a retirement community, there's not a lot you can do with that, or some of these more kind of fancy sounding names. But I was recently at the Latitude Margaritaville Facebook page, and you can just see how much people love it, all the pictures people are taking and posting. So that's a great name with legs. So think about when you're coming up with your brand name, come up with a name that has a theme and you can really have fun with it. Oh, we just named a cannabis bookkeeping service, and we named it Green Tenders, kind of like bud tenders, green, making the nod to money and cannabis. And when the woman who runs it, Jennifer, went to a trade show, she said, help me come up with a theme that works with the name. And we came up with uh, a bean counter theme for the trade show. So you can see how that works with the whole idea of accounting, bean counter. So just like count the jelly beans, we did a bean counter thing, and that did really well for her. So next, the E in smile stands for emotional. You want your name to make a strong emotional connection. It needs to resonate with people. Here's a way that we did it and something for you to think about when naming services. Nothing could be more emotional than planning a wedding. There's a hotel in San Francisco called the Hotel Vitale. It's a very hip, cool hotel, and they were trying to attract more wedding business. They had a binder that couples could look at when they came in to consider renting the hotel for their wedding. And in the binder was a list of all of the wedding services and menus that they had. These were the names of their wedding services. Nothing exciting. And they said, hey, we want to rename these and make them something really fun and hip. So here's what we did. Rehearsal dinner became Meet the Parents. The post-wedding brunch, Bloody Married. And the post-reception bar rental, Last Call for Alcohol. Simply by changing the names of these services in a binder, their sales went up by 25%. So think about that. Take something that's kind of dry and inject some personality into it and see what happens. Next chapter, Scratch. This is the flip side of Smile. Scratch, again, being the acronym for the 7 deal breakers when to scratch it off the list. If your name has any of these, trust me, it's going to be problematic. Spelling challenge. You don't want your name to look like a typo. If it's a copycat, if it's restrictive. A quick example of restrictive, what if Jeff Bezos had named Amazon Book Barn? He probably wouldn't be worth $117 billion, which is what Alexa told me last night he's worth when I asked her. Annoying. You don't want your name to be tame. You want your name to stand out. You don't want your name to have the curse of knowledge where nobody understands what it means except you and insiders. And finally, you don't want your name to be hard to pronounce, and we'll go through some of those now. Spelling challenge. Again, you don't want your name to look like a typo. Alrighty. How do you say this name? Michelle?
Bout?
It's bot. But how many different ways can you spell bot? B-O-T, B-O-U-G-H-T, and then this completely butchered spelling of a perfectly good word. Now, they have a little like price tag in their logo to maybe give a hint for people that it's bot, like B-O-U-G-H-T. But when your name is appearing in black and white or it's on a name badge, you're not going to have your cute little shopping tag there. So remember, you can't really rely on things to help people know how to pronounce your name or spell your name. So bot, and this is one of those examples of a company that, they couldn't get the domain name they wanted, or they thought they were being clever, so they spelled it this way. Well, bought the farm. The first C in Scratch stands for copycat. Copycats names just mean you're unoriginal, you lack creativity. Here's a great example. You all know Pinkberry, the very cool, hip frozen yogurt franchise. Moberry. What do you think when you see the name Moberry? You immediately think, God, what a ripoff of Pinkberry. Look, they copied the name, they copied the logo, everything's the same. There's nothing original about it. Well, Moberry is not the only copycat of Pinkberry. I went on Google and I just started typing the word I typed the word berry frozen yogurt, and I started typing words in front of berry, and look what I found. There's Pinkberry on the top right under Mowberry. Look at all of these names that have berry in them. Look, Pinkberry is not even a great name, but all of these companies wanted to ride on their coattails. When you do that, not only do you show that you're not original, you open yourself up to trademark infringement. So don't do that. And in the book, we actually go through an exercise of naming a frozen yogurt company, and you're going to see how many other ways that these companies could have gone to name themselves something more creative and way more original. And the H in scratch, hard to pronounce. All right, this one. Now, while you all look at that, I'm going to open up this page of my book because I couldn't possibly memorize this. All right, this is on page 59. I'm just going to read this to you. This next name wins the award for multiple personality disorder. OURAY, a Colorado sportswear company, once said this about its name. We get asked every day, how do you pronounce OURAY? Well, we wish the answer was simple, but it's not. The origin of the word comes from the great Ute Indian chief Ouray, which in his language is pronounced Ouray. The local townspeople of Ouray, Colorado, say it Ouray or Year-A, while here on the building, we tend to pronounce it Your-A. Hey, Ouray, you know what I say? Oy vey. So yeah, make sure that your name is easy to pronounce and that it can only be pronounced one way. So next, domain names. When I was asked to write this book by my publisher, I said I wanted to write a chapter on domain names, and my editor said, no, that can just be some supplementary material on your website. Are you kidding? We get asked more about domain names, and there's more misconceptions about domain names than anything else. So I am here today, and my book is here to enlighten you about domain names. Now, why is this so important? It's because most domain names look like they are the result of a game of drunken Scrabble. If you want to see a funny video, Google Drunken Scrabble video, and you will see these guys in a hilarious send-up of how this company, Vooza, V-O-O-Z-A, got their name and why they should have hired Eat My Words and they didn't. So let's go back and look at some of those names. These are Drunken Scrabble names. Remember these? Of course you don't, right? So here are some creative workarounds to help you nab an available domain name. But before I get into those, I want to talk about Tesla. For the first 13 years that Tesla was in business, they didn't own the domain name Tesla.com. If you had gone to Tesla.com, typed it into your browser, you would have seen an ominous looking website with a screen that said, "This site is owned by GandhiNet." What would you have done? If you wanted to go on a test drive of a Tesla, what would you have done? Would you have given up? No, you would have just gone to your browser or gone into your search bar, typed in Google, or it's not typed in Google, typed in Tesla, Tesla cars, whatever you typed in, Tesla test drive, and boom, you would have been at the site. Would you have even noticed what the domain name was? No. Would you care? No. Would you not trust the company because they didn't own the domain name Tesla.com? No. Would you not buy a Tesla? No. Think about how ridiculous all of that is. So when you're really thinking, oh, but I can't name my company this because the domain name isn't available, look, if Tesla didn't need a domain name to pave the road to the future, you don't need to have an exact match either. Tesla's original domain name for those first 13 years was teslamotors.com. Lots of companies you know have used what's called a modifier. They've just added another word. Until 2005, Facebook was the Facebook. Square, square up. Dropbox was get Dropbox. Lots of companies use modifiers. There's nothing wrong with it. And you can get creative with them. There's a company called Greenberg Smoked Turkey Inc. Greenberg Smoked Turkey, not, kind of a long domain name. Greenberg could be spelled different ways, not particularly memorable. What did they do? They created a workaround domain name that's so absolutely infectious, you will never forget it, and I bet you'll talk about it around your Thanksgiving table. Gobblegobble.com. So creative, right? It doesn't matter if you can remember their name. You can remember Gobble Gobble. So if you're sending anybody a Thanksgiving turkey, this is probably where you're going to think to go. Some other ideas. Oh, one thing you don't want to do is have what's called a slurl. And a slurl is what happens when a name that looks perfectly innocent, American Scrap Metal, Penn Island, Mole Station Nursery, not particularly great names, but what happens when you make a domain name out of them and all of the letters are merged together? Uh-oh. Yikes. Uh-oh. Let's look at those again. Right? You don't really think much about it, but yeah, this is what happens. So those are called slurls, which is a amalgamation of slur and URL. So be careful. You don't want to have any of those. So next, create a brief. This is your roadmap to creating your brand name. This is where you will be, it's a kind of a questionnaire you fill out where you talk about what is your brand, how will you scale in the future, who's your target audience, what are the desired experiences you want them to feel when they come in contact with your name. Is it yum, this is delicious, or oh, that's a company I can trust. Then you'll also use your name in an acid test sentence. How do you want people to say your name? How do you want them to hear your name? So that's what the creative brief is. And in the book, it's filled out for a frozen yogurt chain. And this is a real brief. It's the same one we use at my company, and it's filled out for a client that we really had, a frozen yogurt store. Next, we get, oh, sorry. So yeah, and also in the creative brief, you write about how you want your name to stand out. It's really important that your name be different. What is your unique point of difference, or what people like to call your value proposition? All right, so now we get to the fun part, brainstorming. How do you currently brainstorm names? Most people brainstorm names this way. They sit in a white room, staring at a white board. Maybe there's a white guy in a white shirt. That sometimes happens. And you're in a vacuum. You're expecting, again, white room, white board. You're expecting colorful ideas to materialize. That's not where they come from. You're working in a vacuum. In a room like this, you're only relying on the information and ideas in your head. There's far more information in other places, and there's far better tools. These are not those tools. You don't need to do bong hits, consult Ouija boards, and we know no drunken Scrabble. The only tool you need is right in front of you right now. It is your computer. The internet is a gold mine of brainstorming resources, and my book is going to take you through many of them. So I won't give them all away here. I think in the Q&A, Michelle, you can ask me about some of them. But trust me, once you learn these tools, you will never think of brainstorming the same way again. It's not going to be hard or frustrating. It is going to be fun. It's all play. We're going to go through this exercise of naming a frozen yogurt store. We're just going to explore one word in this exercise, and the word is cold. And by doing that, you're going to see all of these great ideas that we come up with. And hey, they're not, when you brainstorm, you're going to come up with, you're going to find some really bad ideas too, but that's part of the fun. So don't be afraid to brainstorm. You should look forward to it. Next is my brand new chapter. It's called Corporate Creativity. No, corporate creativity is not an oxymoron. There actually is a lot of creativity going on in corporations, companies you've heard of. A couple examples. Harley Davidson, their ticker symbol is HOG. I give a lot of examples of fun ticker symbols. McDonald's, like many companies, has an in-house creative studio. Theirs is called Agency 123. It's not named after the dollar menu. It's named after the Pantone color 123. That's the color of McDonald's signature golden arches. LinkedIn has some really fantastic conference room names. They're all named after events in San Francisco, including Pillow Fight, SantaCon, and How Weird. The later being the How Weird Festival that takes place right in the epicenter of where LinkedIn is on How Weird Street once a year. Crazy festival of fun. Toyota has a Toastmasters club called Motor Mouse. PG&E's Toastmaster Club in San Francisco is called Electric Toasters. So lots of fun going on. Groupon wins the award for most irreverent conference names. They have Meat Locker, MEET, Crocodile Done Deal, and this used to be a this used to be a forest. So who wouldn't want to meet in those rooms? These are corporate America is really getting it. They're realizing that by having creative names, adding some personality around the workplace, it really brings a lot of joy and fosters conversation. Etsy has some really great ones. They name a lot of their meeting rooms based on musician food mashups. What do you think this one is? Yep, Fleetwood mac and cheese. They also have Oreo Speedwagon, 9-inch snails, and sushi and the banshees. There's also a whole section in there on job titles and how creative job titles can really help people feel better about their jobs. Now, they're not for everyone. I can't imagine the CEO of McDonald's calling himself Lord of the Fries. But for some companies and some people, they really work. There's a study in here about the Make-A-Wish Foundation that Adam Grant did. You know Adam Grant, the Wharton professor who's written a lot of best-selling books. He studied the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Of course, one of their chapters, which you can imagine how stressful and heartbreaking it is to come to work every day and work with children with life-threatening illnesses, but they found by letting employees give themselves their own titles that it really helped brighten the place up. And children love the names, employees love the names. It helped even the playing field. Lots of great things happened when they did this. The CEO called herself the fairy godmother of wishes. Some of the wish managers chose titles like Mary Wishmaker. So lots of fun things. And my favorite was the CFO, who, traditionally a very boring title, who called himself the King of Cashola. Next, there's a chapter on name changes. We get asked all the time, should I change my name? Is it too late to change my name? It's never too late to change your name. We just rebranded a bank that is 106 years old with a brand new name. So changing your name can be a great time to refresh your brand, get back in touch with your customers. It's not always a great thing to do. Sometimes there's missteps. I think Weight Watchers changing their name to WW is kind of a mistake. Their domain name is www, kind of a mouthful. No pun intended, really. So there's lots of examples in there of name changes, some good ones, some bad ones, and lots of advice. And finally, name review. Half the battle is coming up with a great name. The other half of the battle is selling it in. getting people to agree on it. So this chapter gives you 10 rules, proven rules for reviewing names. It will really help you review them in a positive way that's designed to get people to come to agreement. There's guardrails for groups, so you don't get that group think or that kind of back and forth or all the negativity. Lots of ways to prevent that, because the goal here is to get a name that is an awesome name, the best name, not the name that's met with the least resistance, the name that everybody loves and can agree on. So by the end of the book, you should have an awesome name that everybody loves and be happily ever after the end. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Alexandra. That was awesome. So now we are going to dive into a Q&A. So let's go ahead and kick it off with this first question. You originally published the first version of Hello, My Name is Awesome back in 2014. What inspired you to write the first book, and what are some surprises we'll find in the new edition?
Well, the first book, I didn't want to write a book. I did not. Books are hard to write. My parents were authors, but I knew that a publisher came to me and kind of begged me, so all right. But no, the reason I wrote the book is because so many people that come to oh, I'm sorry, do you want me to put on the video?
Oh yeah, let's go ahead and put on the video.
Okay. Oh, wait, let's go back to my picture. Okay, here, let me put on the video. Okay, there I am. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi. I wrote the book because so many people that come to us can't afford to hire us. We're not cheap. We work with a lot of big corporations, Google and Disney and Frito-Lay, Coca-Cola, and most people that need a name don't have corporate dollars. So I didn't want to turn people away. I want to help people, and everybody can afford to buy a book. I also knew that I had a lot of information to share. No one had ever written a how-to book on names. Why? Because they couldn't. Namers are traditionally linguists. You have to go to school for years and years and years to learn linguistics. I'm not a linguist. My background is as an advertising copywriter. So I was able to develop a method and teach people how to come up with creative names based on everything I learned in advertising, and which is how to create names that make emotional connections that are conceptual, not based on, Greek and Latin word roots.
Awesome. All right. And let's see. So I find myself saying awesome over and over, but that's the
Well,
theme of
hello, my name is Awesome.
So can you share a brief background into, you kind of touched on it a little bit about what led you to become a brand name expert and start your own business, Eat My Words?
Sure. So I was an advertising copywriter from the time I was 21, gosh. And I skipped college. When I was in 8th grade, I knew I wanted to be in advertising. I didn't want to go to school anymore when I graduated, and I talked my mom into well, okay, not only did I convince my parents I didn't need to go to college, I made them pay me for not going to college because they financed my sister getting her undergrad from USC, a degree, Harvard Business School. So I thought that they should pay me, which I did. I'm a good negotiator. And I got right into advertising, talked my way in, and I loved being an advertising copywriter. And every once in a while, I would get thrown a bone and get to name something. And I love naming. I was good at it. It was fun. I had no idea that naming was actually a real profession. And when I discovered that, which was about, I don't know, 15, 16 years ago, that's when I changed gears and decided I'm going to be a namer. And naming is part of branding. Branding and advertising are related, but they never really intersect because there's branding firms, there's ad agencies, they share clients, but they don't want to share budgets. So when I became a namer, I started freelancing for all of these big naming companies, Landor, Interbrand, Strategic Name Development. And what I realized very quickly is they were doing the Latin and linguistic names, and no one was doing these conceptual names like I was. So I ended up doing a project for Wendy's for strategic name development to name a new bacon cheeseburger. And I came up with the name the Baconator, which became the name. I can't take credit for it from my company because my company didn't name it. Strategic name development did. But once that happened and I knew, hey, this is this is a name that another company is getting credit for. Yes, it's their client, but I came up with the name. I really need to do this on my own. So that's when I created Eat My Words and started to get my own clients directly.
Well, I think that just increased your credibility by tenfold for the fact that you named the Baconator. That's
Well,
a
and let me say this too. Oh, something to think about with your name is how many times, think about your name as an investment. How many times will somebody say the name of your brand in the lifetime of its brand? How many times do you think somebody has said the name Baconator? Thousands of people are probably saying it right now, even at 11:38 in the morning. That name, Baconator, son of Baconator. Think of your own name, your personal name. How many times has somebody said your name in your lifetime? Your name will last longer and get used more than any other investment you make in your business, which is why companies pay us a lot of money to come up with these names.
So, speaking of companies coming up with names, one of our attendees said that she loves the book, and what advice would you give someone who is presenting their colleagues or bosses name proposals using the SMILE system?
I guess I kind of need to know more about presenting proposals.
That's a good point. Monica, if you could write back in and share what the proposal, presenting a proposal looks like, then we'll jump back to this question.
Thanks.
All right, so moving along, your, I read the book, read it super quickly. It's super easy to read and understand, and just a lot of very straightforward messaging and tips. Why do you think so many companies are getting it wrong?
Because no one has ever written a book on how to do it right. People don't know any better. They think that naming a company XOBNI is clever. How do you say that? What does it mean? What how it's how would you even spell it? Okay, XOBNI. It's Zobni. What does Zobni mean? It's inbox spelled backwards. How would you know that? Unless it was on a license plate, like my license plate dream job that you're looking at backwards. You might say like, oh, that's inbox spelled backwards. So yeah, people don't know. They think they're being clever. Think of it this way. Just because it's clever doesn't mean it's a good idea. If you wear a red sock and a green sock at the same time, yeah, that's clever. Does it mean it's creative? Does it mean it's a good idea? Not really. So companies don't know, and Flickr started it all by, eliminating a vowel or two, and suddenly everybody thought that was okay. And oh my God, the internet ran out of domain names. And they kind of did. I mean, even snot.com is taken, but there's ways around it. So companies don't know. Nobody tells them, TCHO, the chocolate company. People, how do you pronounce it? Is it techno? What is it? Is it people call that, by the way, I call capital punishment because it's all capital letters. Some people pronounce it to cho, some people pronounce it cho, some people pronounce it TCHO. So people don't think about this when they're naming a company. They don't it's kind of like jumping into a relationship, right? You fall in love too quickly and you don't really think down the road about all the issues that could arise, right? You don't get to know your name very well. You fall in love too fast. So that's what happens. So, but when you read the book and you realize like, oh gosh, I never thought about it being spelling challenged or hard to pronounce, or the fact that it should suggest something about my brand, like all of those 10 names I showed you. None of the people that came up with those brands thought about any of those things. They were just so desperate to get an available domain name.
Yeah, so in addition to just not thinking it through when you are thinking about your name, what would you say is the biggest mistake that people make when they're coming up with a brand name?
Asking their friends and family what they think. People think that they, by asking everybody what they think, they're gonna get, well, look, if your name is bad, then yeah, ask people what what they think. But for the most part, nobody's more of an expert on your company or your brand than you are. But your friends and family aren't the founts of wisdom that they think they are, and either are focus groups. Can you imagine if Richard Branson had sent a survey monkey to his mates asking about the name Virgin? Or think about the name The Body Shop, right? It's a, international brand, beauty brand. Somebody in a focus group could say, "Ew, Body Shop, gross. That's like my greasy mechanic." And I was just, at my body shop, and the couch was dirty, and there was these old tattered posters in there of pinup girls. So people make these associations and can't get beyond that. So don't get locked into, and don't ask focus groups, don't ask your friends and family. Consult, seriously, the smile and scratch test. It's a great filter. That's all you need.
Gotcha. And so I got a little bit of a revision on Monica's question, which is, do you have any advice for using the smile system while you're proposing a list of new names, of different options of names, and at a meeting with your colleagues and your boss?
Yeah, hand them, get printed out and give it to everybody, or put it up on the board, write it up on the board, and then write it on the board, explain it. These are the 5 qualities that make a name strong. Explain each of them a little bit, or give them all the book in advance, actually, if you want to really you really want to sell it in, and then go through scratch, and then give out the names and say, this is what we're evaluating them against. It's a 12-point name evaluation filter. So that way, the smile and scratch test is playing bad cop. So if the boss is like, well, I really like this name, VONGI, well, okay, let's take it through the scratch test. And like immediately it's getting scratched off. That's not you, Monica, saying your name sucks. It is a objective filter saying it for you. I hope that helps. And in the book there's the whole, I tell you, there's like the guardrails for groups, there's the 10 rules for reviewing names. Print it all out, bring it with you. When we submit name lists to clients, we give them the 10 rules for reviewing names before they see the names. So we get everybody prepped so they're not just reacting based on if they like it or not. And this is really important. When you're reviewing names, the best question to ask yourself is not, do I like it? That's very subjective. The better question to ask is it right for the brand? That's much more objective.
I love the way you phrased it, of providing a way to filter bad names objectively and not making it personal, because I think that the most common scenario is whoever is starting the business is very personally tied to the name that they've thought of or have already given the company.
Exactly.
All right, so we kind of skipped ahead to after you've gone through the process of coming up with names, but in chapters 4 and 5, you share the roadmap for what it looks like in to come up with a name and what it looks like in action. How long does this naming process typically take when you're working with a client?
Well, there's a couple ways of working. One, if somebody hires me, I can do it over the phone in an hour. I'll study the names and read the brief in advance, study the names, all that. We can have a call. I'll do it in an hour. That's one way to do it. Hire me as a consultant. Then the other way to do it is hire the firm. We'll do it as a big project. We'll put teams on it. It's a much longer process. That's 3 weeks. We have been known to do it faster. There's always that option.
That's actually a lot quicker than I expected. So that's good news for those of you
Oh,
who
okay.
need to go through the process.
Yeah, no, we will. I don't know. For some clients, expect to have it in a week. So yeah, if they're cracking the whip, if it's Coca-Cola, they need it in a week. We're gonna get it to them in a week.
That's a good point that a lot of times they're under a tight deadline and you're going to have a time restriction. So they put on the pressure. That makes sense too.
Yeah, look, I'll tell you this. No one ever comes to us without trying it on their own first. Why would they? You can come up with a name yourself and not pay anything. But what often happens is people try it for 6 months. They're not coming up with anything that they like, or after they read the book, then they call. Like, you know what? I read your book. I'm doing it all wrong, or I can't. Nothing's passing the smile and scratch test. Even people that I did all the brainstorming stuff, but I did okay. But I know you're going to do it better. But often what happens is things are in a rush because something just got killed in your Frito-Lay, something just got killed in trademark screening. Oh my gosh, you're in a hurry. So that's when we get called in.
Yeah, I think that at least what happened for me is while you're reading the book throughout, you start thinking about names that either of the company you work with or companies you're familiar with, and do they pass the test? And that's the first thought that comes to mind once you learn what the test
Yeah, that's what happens.
is. So, can you share a little bit of insight on how you came up with your own business name, Eat My Words?
Sure. So when I started out naming things, it was a little bit of a transition. I I first started out, I decided to focus, and I'd been an advertising copywriter. I was freelancing, I was doing a lot of tech stuff, writing a lot of websites, and I looked through my portfolio and I saw that I had done a lot of food, and I loved food is fun, right? Who doesn't love to eat food or talk about food? Uh, I'm Susie Safeway shopper. It made perfect sense. I'm going to just focus on food, and I also wanted to name things. So because I was naming a lot of things that make people fat and drunk, Eat My Words seemed to be like the perfect name. So that is how we started naming things that make people fat and drunk with a lot of food clients. And, since that time, we've named, everything from robots to racehorses. I still love to name food more than anything. We were working with King's Hawaiian, who you all know, last week, naming a new, let me see if I can find, hold on, I'm looking around my desk. We're naming this crazy new bread. I'm sorry, I don't see it. It's a new bread for kids, and it's this crazy looking bread. It's really fun. So, there's nothing more exciting than, a Hawaiian guy shows up at my door with a bag from King's Hawaiian with a couple loaves of this fun new bread for kids, and we get to look at it and eat it and taste it. And like everybody here is going crazy. It's so much fun. So that's why food is fun. There's really getting a, a foil bag from Frito-Lay that has no nothing on the bag. It's just foil, and you open it up and there's something inside and you get to taste it. Oh, what would I call this? So that's why food is fun.
I love it. Well, I think it's definitely catchy, and I'm personally not going to forget it. So we have a question from Yuri, and it kind of aligns with one of the questions I had. Her question is, how do you come up with a name that stands out in the world of social media and the internet where there's so much noise, there's so many uh, other names that could be really similar to yours, and how creative do you need to be?
Well, here's an example. Eat My Words. There's no other naming firm. Naming firms don't have creative names, strategic name development, Landor, they're not creative. So how to stand out? Here's an example. We named a speakers bureau the other day, and they're named after people, or they're not exciting, and we named it Speechless. That's fun, right? The meeting planners want to hire speakers that leave the audience speechless, and they want service that leaves them speechless because it's so over the top good. So, and by the way, we couldn't get speechless.com. So the domain name that we purchased and we got that we love is We Are Speechless, which is great. It's fun. It's easy to remember. You want the clients to feel we are speechless. You want the speakers and both the meeting planners to feel, oh, we are speechless. So how to stand out? Don't be afraid to be different. Data technology, data analytics, pouring, right? They all sound the same. They all have names of clouds, right? The company came to us named Cirrus like a little cloud. The new CEO wanted a new name, was embarrassed to give out his business card. We looked at data analytics. What's it all about? It's looking for patterns in the data. Patterns. Okay, we're looking at names of patterns. Oh, what's a diamond pattern? Argyle. Data analytics is all about looking for diamonds in the data. So we named it Argyle data. You see how that's a way to stand out? So go deep, look for metaphors, try to kind of dig around, and just don't be so obvious. Don't be that far removed, but if you can have a little hint there, that's what people are going to remember.
And to go along with that, you do add some brainstorming tips in order to get creative and find ideas. One of the strategies that you include in the book is Google storming, which is a word that you coined, and I'm also pretty sure it'll be in the dictionary by next year. Can you share a little bit about what that means?
Sure. So Google storming is just like there's places I tell you to go to look for names, but one of the that are go to a thesaurus, go to rhyming dictionaries, all these different places. But Google storming is where you're getting a little creative. So when we were naming the frozen yogurt store, I went Google storming and I was exploring the word cold, and that's what we do in the brainstorming chapter. And I went on Google and I'm just randomly typing things that are cold. And now, if we're sitting in the white room, we know some things that are cold, right? We're going to be talking, oh, snowballs and ice cubes and cryogenic chambers. But let's let Google help us, right? Because they're the really big brain, things that are cold. And I see something from, I think, Mother Nature Network. Seven coldest places on earth. I click on that. So I'm reading. And look, you have to dig. And this is why it takes 3 weeks. They're not just going to pop out at you all the time. So I'm reading about these seven coldest places. And I told you it's fun. I'm being entertained. I find out about a place called Hell. And Hell really does freeze over. So I read about a place in in Russia that's it's something near Siberia, and it makes me think of, oh, Siberia would be a fun name for a frozen yogurt store, right? Like, hey mom, I'm going to Siberia, or like, but I'll be home in time for dinner, right? So think about that, and that's what I mean, going a little deeper, being unexpected. It's not Yoberry, it's not Blissberry or Goberry, it's Siberia. It's fun. Another name, Antarctica we came up with. Google storming, metaphors I just mentioned, things that are cold. So what are some other things? Another place you can do on go look at pictures. Pictures say 1,000 words, right? And that's what we do. Look at Google Images. There you'll come up with ideas as well.
Well, thank you, Alexandra. There's so many good insights in here. Just to wrap everything up with one final question, I I love the before and after section that you have at the end of the book and on your website of brands that you've worked with and the names they had to the names you changed them to. What's the favorite part about your job?
Oh my gosh, that every day it's something different, and that I get to create something new. It's just fun. It's fun. I look, running a business is hard, but getting to name things is so much fun. It doesn't matter what we're naming. Look, data analytics, boring, right? But we found a way to make it fun.
Well, on the theme of fun, Alexandra's book, Hello, My Name is Awesome, is a super fun read. You can visit our website at book-pal.com/awesome to purchase Alexandra's book, or you can send me an email at michelle@book-pal.com to learn more. And we have our next chat coming up on November 6th. We're chatting with Tian Zhu, author of Subscribed, so be sure to go to the website and sign up for that. And we're going to go ahead and announce the winners of the giveaway right now. So we have Monica Mago, Karen Harris, Joan Casale, and Jeff Beckham. Congratulations, guys. So that's about it. Thanks so much, Alexandra, for joining us and for showing us how we can be awesome.
Thank you, Michelle.
Bye.